He's a longer on.
I'm thinking about it. I'm sure now.
Good evening all. Coming to this interim full council meeting. We'll start off with some sad news. Tony Checkley, who
Thinking about it. I'm sure now.
all right, Tony Checkley, we know.
No, this is not a white, red, or any
No,
other
I
colour.
didn't do that the other day either.
I've done it on the
Yeah,
screen.
it's on the screen. So start again. Some sad news. Tony Checkley, who we awarded with friend of Buckingham last year, sadly passed away, and I'd like to call Councillor Stutchbury, who gave me the news the other day, to say a few words, and then we'll have a minute's silence.
For those who were not fortunate to know Tony, Tony was a pioneer in getting Mortonville Football Club moved up to Dorset Road. Those of us who were involved at the time know how hard he worked to get there. He also, Tony, in his time in sport, managed to lift what was the Buckingham Athletic Club forward into a successful club, and then managed to unite Buckingham Buckingham United Football Club and Buckingham Athletic Club together, and also managed to join Mortonville Junior Football Club, the Buckingham Junior Football Club. Now, everyone will think, how did you do all that? Tony was a very dynamic man, very big family man, loved his family dearly. I was privileged enough to speak to him at the weekend. But what I will say is that we very rarely see the likes of Mr. Checkley, and also looking at Jane, I can remember that he took children to move over with the Twinning Association and made it possible. So whatever Tony did, he made it possible. The reason he did that was because he had the biggest smile that you're ever likely to see. And when he smiled at you, you really had to give in and help him. That's a brief outline for anyone who fortunately never met him. But I found he was a friend, and I think he was a friend to Buckingham, which is when we gave him the award. You've been patient enough to listen to them. Thank you.
Thank you. So if we can all rise. Minute's silence. Okay, so we move on with the agenda. Apologies for absence for
We have apologies from Councillor Draper, Councillor Martin, Councillor Seaman.
we accept those. Thank you very much. Do we have any declarations of interest, professional or official nature, items on this agenda? Stutchbury.
Just to declare on chair of relevant.
Okay, thank you. Item 3, Land South West of Buckingham, to receive a presentation from David Locke Associates and Planning Land. So over to you.
Like that. Or are you going to get
The slides are. Are you happy to be sit? Should we stand? What's?
Well, while we're getting these slides up, I'll say a few words of introduction. So As mentioned, so I'm Andy from Hallam. We've got Fran Ricardo and David Locke Associates. So Hallam are the land promoters, and we're acting on behalf of the owners of the site. Fran and Ricardo, David Locke are dealing with most elements of the planning application, including the design, the planning, the environmental statement. So why are we here? Hallam and David Locke have got a long interest in Buckingham. We've done several of the sites around the town, been involved in the Buckingham neighbourhood development plan from the start. Both versions, the first version and the latest version, and this land is allocated in that plan, and so we're looking for the next phase, the next stage of the neighbourhood development plan. And so what we're doing is we're pulling together all the technical work that we've had over the last sort of 18 months, and so that's all going to culminate in a planning application, the outline planning application, which, though there is obviously much more detail to come through reserved matters that you'll all be familiar with, the outline is really going to set the framework, it set the tone for the rest of it. Clearly, that needs to be absolutely right. What the intentions are in the neighbourhood plan, what we've learned from the community through the stages. So today is not meant to be technically heavy, so we've not brought a full technical team. It's certainly something that we'd be open to if members wanted a full scrutiny of all the documents, and you wanted our highway consultants and drainage engineers. So we're going to have some of the answers, but anything too technically heavy will probably have to come back to you. It's intended as a presentation, but it's a discussion as well. So we're more than happy for people to ask questions, if that's okay by the chair, but during the course of the presentation. And then we're also happy to stay as short for as long as you like. So do the presentation and then take any questions. Okay.
No, thank you. We're just waiting to get screen sharing accepted on our end.
So it's admitted on here, so we should be in.
We're in, but it just says host has disabled screen sharing. So it's
Oh.
That's your man.
you should.
Yeah. Maybe we can do something. Is that working? Can we just start?
That's promising.
It's awesome. I'll share what you said here.
No, thank you. Thanks again, Andy. And thank you all for inviting us to speak. As Andy said, you know, there's been extensive engagement with Hallam Land over the years. So we want to touch too much on this slide, but it's just sort of demonstrating that collaboration, that collaborative engagement between Hallam Land and the Town Council. And a lot of that has been through the neighbourhood plan process as well. Over the past couple of months, we've had lots of engagement with Sheena as well, we've just met in person, in sort of getting you know, our thoughts and your thoughts in terms of getting that neighbourhood plan across the line. We were very pleased in January to see that it went through a very successful referendum, overwhelmingly a yes at referendum, which was really good. And then I think it was last month that it then was formally made. So we've been following that process, and it's been really we've been really pleased that comes through. And one of the things that's come up out of that, of course, is the allocation for the site. And just as a refresher, it's for approximately 800 dwellings, a local centre, and land for a primary school as well. So this concept plan was part of the, or is part of the allocation within the neighbourhood plan. And it was sort of put in there as sort of almost an illustration of how the development could come forward. And it sort of set the basis as well for Hallam Land over the past couple of months to do, you know, lots of engagement, both public consultation we did, I think it was October last year. And then also we've had sort of a series of pre-apps as well, which Fran will talk through in a second, in terms of with Buckinghamshire Council, but also with the LLFA and the local highways authority, so that technical feedback as well. So all of that has culminated into the evolution of the scheme, and this slide, in the next slide, sort of talk through what that looks like and sort of some of the changes that we'll be presenting through the outline application. One of the key things that we know is important to you, but also important to Hallam as well, is making sure that the site and the development, in whatever way it comes forward, integrates really well with Buckingham and has sort of those links to Buckingham town centre, so that it doesn't sort of just sit on the edge of town as a separate thing, sort of connects really well and integrates with the existing community. So there's been a lot of work that's gone into that from a technical perspective as well, just making sure that those linkages are there, and supporting both the physical infrastructure and the green infrastructure as well. So those are sort of the key elements that we've talked about as we evolve the scheme, and the pre-app engagement that we've done as well has helped us shape some of that. So yeah, if I hand over to Fran to talk through some of that.
So I think there's sort of the suggestion when we suggested that we come and speak to you, it was really on, we know what the concept plan looks like, it's in our neighbourhood plan, we know that you've done consultation, what has changed, how has the scheme evolved, and can you talk us through that? So that's kind of what we're here to do in the next few slides. So this is the concept plan that was shared at the public consultation in October last year. It came with a few other slides thinking around, or boards, should I say, thinking around the strategy for kind of access and connectivity, bit of drainage, the landscape, and there was an opportunity to kind of go through the feedback and hear residents' views and answer questions. And I think probably the main comments that we received really were in relation to understanding the form of development, the local centre, the primary law, and how we were going to mitigate things like flood risk and some technical matters. So that really helped us inform our kind of scope of our technical work with Buckinghamshire Council. As Rakai has mentioned, we've engaged with the lead local flood authority, and that has helped us to kind of evolve our surface water strategy, making the green infrastructure work quite hard to convey, to store, to manage surface water drainage, but also allowing it to form part of a really well accessible, connected green landscape. We know the importance of the green, the Buckingham Outer Green Ring, and wanting to bring all of those components into the master plan. The Highway Authority as well, we looked at the scope of modelling, we tested the scope of our transport assessment, the junctions that we were going to assess. We looked at an active travel routes, we looked at an audit into the town centre and what routes were available and where upgraded crossing points might be appropriate. And then we also had quite a lot of detailed discussion around urban design principles, the form of the local centre, what the primary school might look like, the capacity and those sorts of things. So as Andy says, I'm not going to get too technically heavy, but just want to sort of explain to you where the master plan has landed and the kind of form and disposition of those uses. So I think that's probably the next slide is the illustrative plan. Hopefully, it's in. detail to be able to see, but I'll just broadly explain. This is really showing the integration now of the kind of landscape structure and the built form, and it starts to present block layouts and connectivity within the development. So this is, we say, in an illustrative master plan, it is outline, it is not the final design solution, but it helps present the proposals. We have the primary school that's centrally located. That is in a similar location to the concept plans within the neighbourhood plan. It is showing a 1 FE site with potential safeguarded land for expansion to a 2 FE. That was something that came through from our conversations with Buckinghamshire Council. Look, 800 dwellings, you don't generate sufficient numbers to deliver a 2 FE, but we know what the neighbourhood plan policy says. So it's 1 FE provision with land safeguarded, and that will be discussed through the application how that is secured. So that gives flexibility for additional provision if other developments require that primary placement. Probably the biggest change is the relocation of the local centre, the mixed use centre that was at the gateway of the site, Tinchwick Road Gateway, and that's been brought into the centre of the site. That's shown at number 3.
I'll just fuck it up. Just
Right.
that's where
Yeah.
the entrance, and then number 3 is over there next to the school.
So officers considered that this would be better from a placemaking perspective. And the parcel that now sits at the gateway is shown as a residential parcel, but the consideration is within the proposals. We want to anticipate allowance for a bit of a commercial element to be retained at the gateway, should that be of interest to an occupier. But the master plan is going to show those uses co-located.
Can I just carry on that one? Because it is one of the points that we're interested about any sort of queries views. The local centre, I think our view is slightly different from what the urban design officer suggested, possibly. Because being in the centre, it has certain placemaking functions, but ultimately we want to have something that's definitely going to deliver. And there's always that balance between, if there's something that isn't that visible, how is it going to be best used? And clearly there are other developments that haven't got the local centres, and so it was located there. But certainly, let's say the town council or individuals have certain strong views that they think it is better located. That's why we've got this either or option. But from our point of view, we're just sort of, once they do what was told, because we can see the logic behind it. But also we do recognise, generally it's a threshold of about 1,000 that local centre providers feel comfortable with then having something that's out of sight from the wider network.
We have got 2 points of access. We've got a slide on access proposals, so we can get into that a few slides on, but there are 2 points of access. So we've obviously got the existing Tinchwick Road roundabout. The southern access is in, it provides the access through to the new allotments cemetery area. And so that arm is already in, so it'd be taking a kind of priority T-junction into the site. That's near number 10 on the slide. And then there is a second access directly off Gorcut Road, also number 10. That is a T-junction. And those roads connect through in the form of a primary street that accommodates buses and has segregated foot cycle ways. And obviously runs through and then connects through to that central sort of primary school site. So and then you can see that there are green links that run kind of north, south, east, west, and actually these are structured by existing hedgerow features. And it is that will provide the sort of the green space through the development, provide additional opportunities for swales, surface water drainage storage, but also we can get some really good leisure network through there, north, south, but also there's a circular route as well that's is in illustration that we can see in a couple of slides on.
So just a bit more, I suppose, illustrative material really on a few of those points that we picked up. Yeah, so again, refinement of the proposals. We've done a bit more work really on thinking about what that local space might look like, the local centre, and how that might be co-located. Not just the built form, but also the play provision, having a play area that's sitting adjacent to the primary school where the bus stop is, and just having that kind of central focus. And I think we've got a slide of the landscape strategy, and that responds really well to that sort of central kind of civic hub. And wanting to have a bit of a focus of activity in that public realm. And what's quite interesting actually was we sort of started with this intention to make sure that we sort of preserve as many of the landscape corridors as we can and the hedgerow features. And actually the urban design officer was saying there is some circumstances where you might want to think about removing a section, so you open up an area of public realm to allow people to get to be able to move between local centre, play space, primary school. Otherwise it could act as a bit of a segregator. So obviously we've got all of the our assessments, and we make sure if we are making those choices, we're not taking out important protected trees or category A trees. So do you want to move on to the next one? Thank you. So this is a sort of visualisation of the gateway, Tinswick Road gateway. So this is the existing roundabout in the foreground. The parcel just on the left of the image, but all the right-hand side of the plan is showing a kind of form of probably lower density residential development that might sit there. But equally, we've got a provision where there's an alternative use that could come forward if we wanted to provide the opportunity for a commercial use. But we've got a drainage pond that sits at the gateway. It is the lowest point of the site. It is where you want to store your surface water. It's where it naturally falls. So that provides us with that opportunity to create a sort of planted landscape edge at the frontage of the site. And that's just showing that where we put a bus stop there. So that is accessible and then can connect into the site. This is the landscape master plan, and it's a bit sort of zoomed out, and you probably can't quite see. We've got some plans that we can leave you with, but this is one of the refinements that's come out through our pre-app discussion with the local lead flood authority. So, lead local flood authority, we've got a master plan that's been designed with surface water conveyance in mind. And it maximises the opportunity to include as much blue and green infrastructure as possible, and that will help slow down water and convey it. So we've got a drainage basin that's sited on the front by the A421. That's where the natural lower point of the site is, and that will manage the surface water. You will note that to the north, just north of the roundabout, is a second land parcel. Now that is where we're siting a second attenuation basin, and that will help further store, control flows and manage surface water, where it will run through a series of swales and pipes to outfall to the Great River Ouse to the north.
I'll just show that.
Yeah.
Probably describe the basin here, and that will connect to another basin on this side, and then follow a drainage route, a swale down there and connect into there. Because what we do know, because what you have to do is go and do lots of infiltration testing, and the side just doesn't infiltrate as well as it might. And so you have to go through this process. You have to do groundwater monitoring over all through the winter months. And it basically says that you've got to have a positive outfall if you can. And so that's why it's a slightly unusual route through. As we know from this area of the Tindwick Road side, they've got a pond and outfall as well, so it's replicating that. The alternative, in effect, is probably to have a huge drainage basin on that side, which has got urban design issues, and in any case there's issues with potentially religious classes and reservoir and other issues. So that's probably the most complicated bit of the site and the major change that's happened.
Can we do questions at the end? Yeah.
I think probably it's important to explain that, because of course it's an outline application, but we need to include all land that is required to deliver the development and mitigate our impacts. And so when an application comes forward, there's land that is outside of the allocation boundary, and it is for that reason, because it is providing that attenuation function. The other elements of the landscape strategy pick up things like the intention to have retained planting, strengthened planting. It's showing 2 local equipped areas of play that sit centrally within the site, and then picking up on the opportunity for some orchard planting, although be it acknowledging that there is the allotments that are right next door. And also thinking perhaps a little bit more interestingly, creatively about play, and it being more destination play, and having a kind of looped provision, this sort of circular loop that takes you around the edges of the site or through the centre of the site, where you've got opportunity for sort of more informal play on the way, rather than destination play areas. We also have 2 of those, but just something that's integrated and a bit different. So obviously you've got the mugger that sits at St Rumbold's Fields to the north. So we're thinking about providing something that's a little bit different. So collectively there's a good range of provision at the site. I think that's probably all to say on that one. Access and movement, we've explained about the 2 points of access. 2 new signalised pedestrian crossings to be provided to the 2 roundabouts that are on the eastern and western edges of the site. We know that the land off Osier, where I think it's Waits development, that's providing a 2-can pedestrian signalised crossing to the east of that arm. So we'll be providing one to the west, and then another one on the Tindwick Road roundabout. The primary street, as I say, will be designed to accommodate the buses. There's a really good bus service, as you know, along the Tindwick Road. There's quite a few services that run through there and go into St Rumbold's Fields. So I think that's something that will need to come out through pre-app. There might be a diversion through the site. Certainly we're designing for that case. We've got new cycle and footways. The primary street and the secondary street has got really good provision, and then we've got these lower order leisure routes that also sit through the open space network. So this is, you'll be familiar with the development framework plan. So this is the key regulating plan that sits with an outline planning application, and it secures all the key parameters. The development areas that are shown in yellow, land for the local centre. We've also got that flexibility retained for maybe some smaller scale retail commercial use at the gateway parcel. So that's that sort of asterisk that is identified in that location at the front of the gateway. We've got the 2 access points. We are securing the routing of the primary street to make sure that there is a expression around how you connect between the 2 points of access. And then you can see just the sort of spatial application of that kind of safeguarded land principle. The solid blue is the 1FE primary school, and the hatch is showing the land that would be required to expand to a 2FE. So that's the way that could come forward and be secured. It's got the open space within there. It shows indicatively those 2 drainage basins, and then the green is showing the trees to be retained and the hedgerows. So they're the sort of starting points of the development and what would be secured through an outline that future reserve matters would then have to demonstrate accordance with. So just briefly, next steps. We're obviously preparing the outline planning application, pulling together all of our technical work. We think we've got a really strong master plan that's evolved quite some way from early meetings with yourselves through the neighbourhood plan. We're looking at submitting an application later this spring. There'll obviously be the formal consultation to follow. But yes, we welcome any questions, and we're happy to do that through this session, or come back and answer any further questions, or set up some sessions through the formal period.
Okay, so I think Jane had a question.
Yeah, just a quick one, sorry. You were talking about on that accessible to other leisure and recreation services. Yeah, excellent. There we go. And I was thinking, well, I know St Rumbles has leisure, but it's across quite a busy road. I wouldn't cross that road. What are your plans for making it accessible? Did I hear about Buckingham crossing?
Yeah.
So here there'll be a because there's a toucan crossing that's going in this side, part of this scheme, and here we're going to have a route down here and have a toucan crossing there, and then on this side, toucan crossing is going on that side. So predominantly, if you're on this side here, then you'd go to that one, and if you're on this side, you migrate to that one.
Anya?
So I've had a couple of thoughts went through my mind. I don't know whether they're strictly speaking questions, but one was the siting of the commercial centre or the local centre. And I can see why somebody suggested it might be better in the middle of the settlement. But where first was there two things that went through my mind when I was thinking, yeah, that'll be visible from the road. So if somebody wants to pop in by the driving past, that would give the traders some maybe additional footfall or additional trade. And also it'd be more obviously perhaps accessible from St Rumbles Fields and sort of the upper end of the Tintwig Road, because it'd be more visible. You know, once people know. So I mean, you mentioned it already, but my first reaction to that was I'd want to look at that again in terms of where the siting makes the most sense.
Yeah.
And the other thing that went through my mind is something completely unrelated, and that had to do with the green corridors. And when you said how the officers at the Buckinghamshire Council had suggested you might want to have some gaps in them, and I can see the logic of some gaps so that you don't segregate the settlement. But on the other hand, those hedgerows are also an important wildlife corridor. It's not just the preservation of trees and plants individually. It is a corridor along which birds and small mammals and insects travel. So I think that needs to be considered in terms of putting in gaps and how wide those are.
So I've got a couple of points. One is similar to what Anya saying about the siting of the centre, which, yeah, you think the centre should be in the centre. However, we've found at Lace Hill, I think, where the community centre is on the outskirts of the development, it can be quite hard to get people to go there. And if it's in the middle of housing, it could be that there'll be issues for people who are living in close proximity to that. Also, if you were to put housing on the north side of the access road to the cemetery, you've got people going to the cemetery bypass people's front doors, basically, haven't you? Which might cause a bit of an issue for people. Maybe it might make it more difficult to sell those houses or get them occupied. The other one is the attenuation pond and then the drainage going down to the ooze, and that's obviously going into the ooze upstream of the town, where when we have heavy rain, use cannot cope with the amount of water that's going into it at the moment. And there's also there's issues going on which are trying to be, various people are trying to work on with the Environment Agency, Buckinghamshire Council, Local Authority, and Clean Water, etc., to try to mitigate the flooding to properties within the town. So I think that we need some really close work on, to be putting extra water in upstream is without the mitigations to the issues that are already there, that is going to cause further issues.
To try to touch that from a slightly non-technical perspective, but when we say putting more water in that location, the premise of this is that you have to model and work out where the water of this site currently goes. And ultimately, what you have to do in flood risk theta is you have to make sure it gets that destination slower. That's the whole purpose of the detention basins. And so the same amount of water will end up there because we're not creating or taking water away, but it will get there slower. And so in times of peak storm, then it will hold it back. Now, over the years, we've always looked at, well, what can you do to actually improve the situation? But the amount of water that comes off this, as you can imagine, is only a really small part. So even if you put in huge, you sometimes see strategic detention basins going in. So what we can say that this scheme will make the situation better, but it will only be a very little better. So what we can't do is really improve what's going on in the town. But what we have to prove is that it won't be any worse than the current situation. But that will come through the flood risk assessment.
Thank you. Tony, I think you had your hand up.
Yeah, I was just thinking that it's very close to some Rumbold fields over that area of town, isn't it? But I can't see any area when I include some Rumbolds of a social gathering spot. Okay, there's green corridors, but a building where people can meet and get to know their neighbours and that sort of thing. Has there been any thought for a provision like that? I'm not necessarily saying a pub. I prefer a pub, but basically somewhere where people can meet.
And I think that's the premise of the community hub, as it could be called, when you've got the primary school with movement there, and the local centre, which would be some shops and your spaces, and as Fran says, you've got your mobility hub and things. So that will be the community focus, and that's why it's sort of, even we don't know the right answer. If you're moving away your local centre over there, then what does that create in the heart of the settlement? And so there is a plan. I mean, with a pub as well, I think a pub is just as vulnerable to it not being used. And so a pub operator, if I ask them where would you want to be, they definitely say at location 9 and 10, of course, logical. And what we don't want to do is create something and say, look, this is going to be the heart of it. So what we also have to do is, the school will be a hub of sorts, but I appreciate it's not up to everyone because not everyone goes and uses the school. And I think from what you've said, Lace Hill, and certainly I would be interested to hear how community elements of the Lace Hill school have been used, how often they're used. I don't even know, to be honest, if they're open to the public to use the hall or a meeting or what, but it'd be something we'd be interested to know.
John.
Okay, I thought I wouldn't say much this evening, but I've got a few things to say. I'm not sure that the location of these crossings, because if you just got a crossing here, people go down the Tindrick Road. How are they going to get across Tindrick Road into the play area, for example? This is quite a busy road, the Tindrick Road, as you know, and whilst if youngsters or older people, whatever, can go across here, they may want to go into this site, and vice versa, of course, depending on the location of the community hub. We need more crossings. My view would be better there, but then because we've got the problem again of Tindrick Road is that there's no path on this side. Yeah. And of course, further into town, there's no lighting. So in the winter months, people who want to go from here or indeed St Rumbold's into town, they face a kind of like a dark zone they have to go through, and that's really bad planning in my view. So that's one thing. Like Anya and Fran, I think the location of the retail unit is critical. Whilst I get what you're saying about creating a sort of community centre, if we've got all this housing happening here, we've already got the St Rumbold's housing. There are no planned, as far as I know, retail sites. Certainly nothing here. I don't think there's going to be any in here. Somewhere that's going to be able to access. I mean, there's arguably you could put it here as well. I think would be important and would be more likely to be sustainable in terms of commercial realities. I'm not sure that a few shops in the middle of here, that this community is going to be enough people to make even a newsagent. You need extra footfall. And I've seen that happen, elsewhere. Points about the housing, we say this again and again and again. Lifetime housing, wide enough doorways, level access, 21st century housing, internet, solar, electrical vehicle points and so on. Again, I'm sure you've got this all about. Grey water recycling, really important. The thing that always comes up in discussion about any new housing is we can't get a doctor's appointment even now. So I think in terms of making your case to the public, there's got to be something in there about people saying there will be extra resource or extra medical provision. If there isn't any of that, if there isn't going to be an extra doctor or whatever, then people are going to say this is just more and more pressure on local health services. Likewise, education, primary school, great. What about secondary education? Right now we've got two schools, and because of the two-tier system, lots of pressure on the Buckingham school and so forth. Back to the housing, really important to have a range of housing of different sizes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bedroom, not just 6 bedroom stuff and everything else. There's the whole sewage issue being milled up, I'm sure. I'm still not convinced the suds actually work, but I think they do. I think one of the other big issues is for children living in Gorcock who want to get into the secondary school. This path is a blooming nightmare. There's no street lighting, I think, or it might have been switched back on again, but the path is getting narrower and narrower and narrower. It hasn't been properly maintained by the Shire Council. Anything can be done to make that a more accessible route, not only for the children living in this site, but also for the children living in Gorcock as well, would be great. And yeah, and in terms of the play provision, please consult the Make Space for Girls campaign. Make sure there's plenty of that.
Okay, Martin.
It's good, thank you. It's great that we can give our personal opinions at this juncture. Really, no, it's good because it's all coming out. So I've got a few here. From other developments, property signed roads, rather fairy houses that open out on a road which is ill-defined, like doesn't have a curve, hasn't really worked. They still is the one I'm thinking of. So we're not really in favour of that, or I'm not really in favour of that. Especially when it comes to putting a school in the middle, and then yes, it's 800 houses, but they're not all going to have primary school children in them. So I would imagine a high percentage of people driving to that school, which means more traffic through the site. Just as there is at Lace Hill, you've got to go all the way through the site to get to the flipping school, which then clogs the whole thing up at that particular time. And then, as I said about the ill-defined roads, people then park in front of people's doors and that upsets them all, and the thing does a big circle. Signpost buildings would be nice. Something that is bright or has a chimney on it, or says, yeah, go up to that building and then turn, or it's in front of you somewhere. Something that stands out, a nice glass front on one of the buildings, that makes it different. Or a signpost, big enough to read, not. No, signpost buildings are good. We used to do it by post boxes, we don't have those anymore, or you're putting one in. But we've just got one in on Rumbold's Fields, haven't we? So they can walk over and post it there. I suppose all these levelling lakes and stuff are all part of the service charge being maintained by, and all of the green areas. So that's another thing about service charges, that, you know, we don't want these highly managed, expensive service charges going on. We prefer that not to happen. And one of my favourites is refuse collection. Yeah, you've done it by the standardary size of roads, but they all seem to be a bit small when you get a couple of cars parked there. You said, yes, it's a primary bus route, but a couple of cars and all of a sudden you're zigzagging through a whole chicane all the way along the road because there's just not enough space. And we don't want the cars there, but they appear because of where it is. You can't walk to work there, you've got to drive. I'll be pleased to see a bus go through there, by the way, at some point. I don't think we're really well connected. And just to round off my point, with John's point, the high eco homes, maybe triple glazing, maybe heat pumps, stuff like that. I don't know how you're going to market these. Are they just going to be bog stand and put them up and sell them, or are they going to be, you know, oh, look what you've got here, something to live in for a long while? Don't answer that.
I think I've got lots of that, all those points, but I think you can better.
Thank you.
Right.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about the plan. I'm just going to talk about where you're going with the procedure. You stated that you were keen to work for the town council. And you recognise the Buckingham neighbourhood development plan. First question would be, are you going to recognise the policies in the Buckingham neighbourhood development plan? In your drawing up of your conclusions of the way you would develop this. Look at those policies about being Pacific. Secondly, will you be having further conversations with town council about the development agreements, because town council is quite often left out of it, and I don't really think mummy knows best always when it comes to Alfred. There's some people around here who've got specific interests in the town, not in the money, which is important. So please, can you carry on that conversation? And when it comes to the way you're going to do this, going out further, will you come back again in the reams of points that have been raised, with the ones that you can address? Because I'm not going to go into anything that's said. I've got views, but I'm not going to go into anything that's said. I just think that's very key. Trying to follow on from where Martin was going, I think what Martin was alluding to when I said about the development agreements, will you please look at considering the town council first before you write them out of management? Because that has happened in some areas and been successful, and other areas it hasn't. And I think that that gives the town council the opportunity at a future date to consider through commuted zone if they want it. I think that the move, nationally, the move's moving against management companies. And I just think those conversations could be had with officers sensibly. That's it.
Okay. Roger.
Just need to quick one, Andy. There's public footpath goes across St Rumbolton into the top of your site.
There's that, it goes there, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you thought of putting a crossing across there?
We've considered it, that it's sort of been on and off as a principle. I mean, in theory, it's something that could be delivered. I'm not certain that it's something that the Highways Authority would want to see. There would potentially be a change of speed limit, it would affect traffic flows. And so I think the general answer is that it's feasible, but it's not, as I say, a strong desire from sort of anyone at this point, and it has other implications. So it's something that, like quite a lot of other things, is on the table as part of the discussions. What would it do and how would it affect the wider network, remains to be seen. But you're right, it would be an additional crossing.
I was thinking, but instead of putting one by the roundabout, Tingley Road roundabout, put it there, because you can just go straight into the St Runbold's multi-use games area from there. Whereas like John was saying, if you cross over,
And you got to get
you've got
back.
all of, yeah, and that would be an easier point of access to the mugger. People on this side of the ring road,
Bypass.
whatever. It's a smooth.
Slowing. Plenty year.
Right, I've got Lisa and then.
Thank you. Can you remember to put in drop curbs opposite each other for any wheeled vehicles, so wheelchairs, scooters, bikes, things like that, that aren't going to be on the road, mobility scooters. So if you've got one drop curb, can you make sure there's another one opposite it, please?
Unlike some rumbles.
Okay.
Hey, this is the general kind of comment in over is that it's clearly lots of the development, but Lace Hill and Rumbold, which is just very recent and things like that. One of my questions was going to be if there are lessons learned from any of those, they're the things that we want here.
There's a big long list.
And everyone's got slightly different views, and just to give one example about whether it's the urban design officer or something, and so I'll use this as an example, not making a view, but at some Rumble fields you could sort of drive all the way around the outer edges, so you can drive everywhere around. Whereas another point of view would be in these areas here, you don't need to drive around every single block because you can create different leisure routes, and that's one where, as developers, sometimes we don't have particularly strong views, but we need to know the views so we can put in the right answer. Because sometimes, you know, one officer's voice is different than other people. So if there are any just key things that come out of any of those other developments, we can list them out and try and work them like the drop curve one.
Yeah.
It was just a tiny thing that I thought, actually, I quite like this idea that there are routes that look relatively straight that go through this rather than these wriggly things which actually.
They're really.
Trying to find
really
anything on
really
Lace Hill drive me.
Okay, do you have any other answers to any of the other points that people?
I think there's so many. I think
Yeah.
I don't want to pick out
Yeah.
any in case they were doing the best point, but you know, we can feedback on all of this.
Yeah.
So Councillor Stutcher's point about are you going to get feedback from us? And the answer is yes. And we'll try and cover as many of these answers in effect a note saying or signposting where that might be, because there's a lot on that list that we've either covered, we've not covered, or requires further conversation. And so, you know, the headlines, of course, we do want to work with the town council, and you know, I work in Elderly Vale as long as not everyone, definitely others, and relationship it is just it can work in a particular way. And when it comes to Section 106 agreement, then it is fairly similar in all the areas we cover, and there's always a disconnect. You know, the disconnect on it, but where there are certain examples such as routes into town. So in our TA, we've done an audit and we looked at every single route into town, and there's a lot of things that you could do, but which is the right one? One thing that we've committed in our things, we are going to improve those, but which are the main ones that need improving? And sometimes that's not something we know. It's not always something that district council, but Buckinghamshire Council know. So that's why generically we'll say, well, here's some money, and that can be decided in a particular way. But if you're not part of that conversation, we'll just going to get directed something else. So it is noted, not that we specifically control it, but you know, we're going to be speaking to you through the course of the application, and so no doubt we'll be reminded of it when those discussions start.
Thank you very much. So please do that. Please keep us in the loop. We're very keen to have input into what's going on. Thank you very much for coming and presenting to us this evening. You're very welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting if you wish to. But
It's about community infrastructure levy though.
It is.
Well, we'll leave you to it if that's okay, and so thank you for that.
Cheers. See you again soon.
Okay.
Thanks.
Right, thank you very much.
I think we sent these slides halfway on.
Yeah.
And they use on, please.
So can I those to everybody? Yes, that will be, thank you. Okay, so we move on then to item 4 on the agenda, Buckinghamshire Council consultation for the still charging schedule. And it's to receive the report from the Town Planning Officer, Sheena, who's been busier than ever since our town plan was made. Now, this will be an item or the item on an extraordinary meeting next week. So we're not going to discuss this tonight. We're going to receive this report from Sheena.
Which I think the very brief report which has been circulated is really to say the working group had baptism of fire on Thursday on development, working group on developing contributions. I don't think it was supposed to be a more gentle introduction. So we have quite a lot of discussion and feedback from that, which I am rapidly putting into a report with, I hope, suggested responses to the consultation, which are obviously open to amendment, etc., according to how the council feels. But just to sort of try and cope with the sheer volume of material, it might be the best thing. So yes, that will be being circulated on Wednesday for the interim next Monday. And yes, discussion next Monday.
Yeah.
In the meantime, if anyone's got any questions or anything from looking at the consultation itself, please feel free to email me. I'm not guaranteeing that I'll be able to answer your question, but I will try.
Thank you. Okay, so
There is a recommendation to resolve the.
yeah, I was just going to do that. Sorry. John.
I was just going to propose that we accept the recommendation.
Yeah, thank you.
Couldn't see John, so we couldn't promise.
Sorry.
Also, I'm going to say a second recommendation, please go and read the 19 documents. And if anyone can say they've read them all, I will personally thank you. They are huge documents, and as Sheena said, we're going to have plenty of opportunity at the next meeting to give our response to these things.
Okay, so we've got a proposal and seconder to accept the recommendation, which is to note the consultation of FERB and resolve to agree a response at the extraordinary meeting of the full council on Monday, 27th April, to next Monday, to allow adequate preparation for councils and officers. All those in favour? And that's unanimous. Thank you very much. And I'd just like to, again, continually thank Sheena. Can we read it, please? Thank you. Okay, so we are now at number 5, Chair's announcements. I don't believe I have any. Date of next meetings. So we've got extraordinary next Monday, which isn't on this list. Annual statutory meeting Monday the 11th of May, full council Monday the 11th of May, and interim on Monday the 15th of June. So I'm going to finish this meeting. We will go straight on to planning without closing off the thing. So just be aware that we are still live.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
Thank you. You can watch your
There's the microphone that was fun as well.
Yeah, I know the one up there. But it's not.
It has been working for a few weeks.
That's what
What's that saying? Nice on to this. With my words against the 20s.
It's on now. Yes. I fiddle with it.
I knew what I was supposed to be muting.
Welcome to this meeting of the Buckingham Town Council Planning Committee, which I'm hopefully will work through our usual intellectual count. So we have item 1, apologies for absence.
We have apologies from Councillor Drake.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Marquis.
Yeah. Thank you very much indeed. Are there, item 2, are there any declarations of interest?
One of the applications is for Councillor Draper, so it's an interest that Councillor Draper is a personal friend of mine as well as being a councillor.
Thank you very much indeed.
Oh, the same objection then.
Yeah.
Objection member to count, thingy, you know what I mean?
Whatever, yeah.
Yeah.
John?
Yeah.
Well, that's my query too, because obviously I'm not as close to Lucy as friends, but we all know Lucy.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
We just mute from that.
Some 3 minutes. the minutes of the meeting held on the 23rd of March, 2026. Oh, will be presented at the next meeting. I've got minutes still or not?
No, well, the links to them on the,
Yes,
yeah,
but they're not
and
on the agenda.
they've been previously circulated, they're not normally on the agenda.
Ah,
There's a link to them,
yeah, so we just note them.
we note them, yeah.
Yep. Are members happy to note them?
No, we agree them, we've got to agree them.
No, it says previously presented.
No, it's just copy
Yeah, that's
previous.
not on mine, not on mine.
No, I've not got that on
So you've
mine.
got the wrong thing.
Have I got the wrong thing in?
Yeah.
Okay, right. Before, let's just move on then from the.
Sorry.
3. Happy to come back to it, Fran, if you do find something there. At the moment, mine, it says to note that the minutes of the meeting held on 20th of March.
Yeah.
Okay,
will be presented at the next meeting.
sorry, I have got the wrong,
Not at all.
wrong agenda in front of me.
And then item 4, for members' information, the next scheduled Buckinghamshire Council, North Buckinghamshire Area Planning Committee is on Wednesday, the 22nd of April, 2026. Okay, yeah, you've done your best as ever. Robin,
Just to declare, I'll probably be there.
yes. I'm sure they miss you if you weren't.
I think they would, yeah.
There are no scheduled meetings of the Strategic Sites Committee. Okay. New calendar available in May. So now we'll move on to the meat of our meeting, more or less. A number of planning applications. So the first one is 32 Nelson Street, which is it's a pretty olive green involved in that. Catherine, would you like to give us some?
Can I just say that at the time I published the report last week, there was nothing from the historic buildings officer in the documents. There is now.
Oh.
It goes onto the 4th side of A4. And he really doesn't like it.
Wow. Oh.
He's inappropriate and gone into details about what particularly is inappropriate and deleterious to the conservation area and a listed building.
Oh,
So-
is this the use of UPVC or something like that, the windows?
Yes.
That seems to be main. Yeah.
It may be looking like timber, but it isn't timber.
Okay. Yes, I mean, so 4 pages of not a happy man, a woman. Karen, I'm going to say something.
We had this very discussion with fellow members of the planning committee and Buckingham Society. What would the heritage officer say in view of other comments on previous look-alike timber windows?
Yes.
We actually thought this, partly because it was attractively painted,
Yes.
was acceptable.
Yes.
So we not totally surprised to have a 4-page review from the heritage officer in view of previous other things. We also raised the point, why make a fuss about this when the grade 2 listed building, Town Hall, still has those awful illuminated
Yes.
lights.
Yes. Well, we're not here to discuss that, but point, we know the point. Roger.
One of the issues with replacement windows is that according to the council's historic buildings heritage people, is that it takes away the historic value of the property. Now, I would question this being through in 2026, because in my opinion, if you have windows that have got exactly the same size of openings, types of openings, and the same dimensions of glazing panels, it doesn't reduce the historic value of the street scene, or in my opinion, the buildings. And the problem with older buildings is that if you just keep replacing wooden windows all the time, then unless you've got a huge amount of money to afford hardwood windows, then it's a pointless exercise, because you've got to keep them to do it, and they leak, damp gets in, so it does affect the whole fabric of the building. And so I think people that are responsible owners, like these people obviously are, then I do not personally see that this
Yeah.
reduces the historic
Yes.
value of the environment, and I would suggest you don't object to it.
Yeah.
personally.
Okay, well, try out. No.
Just know that there are issues in some historic buildings in town which aren't the almshouses, with the fact that they're all single glazed at the front, and for people who are vulnerable
Yeah.
in the most part living in them, and the almshouse charity isn't able to just replace those windows.
Good point.
As Roger's saying,
Yeah.
like, it would be far better for the upkeep of those premises if it was they were able to put double glazed units in, but they're not allowed to. They can only put secondary windows in and retain the wooden frames.
Yeah. And it says that the intention is to install a high quality timber alternative sash window that closely matches the style, proportions, and appearance of the existing windows, while significantly improving thermal and acoustic performance, which is comes with the what's not to like category. Roger, okay.
Yeah, I'd just like to comment on what the mayor said, is that if you look at English Heritage guidance on replacing windows, there is not a total ban
There's not.
on either plastic, aluminium, whatever. What they say is that it depends on the importance of the building. So if it was Blenheim Palace, you'd have to keep it as is. Whereas the majority of listed buildings are grade 2 now in towns and they're lived in. And this is a prime example, in my view, of following English heritage advice.
Yeah.
That it doesn't, if you don't destroy the historic relevance of the place, then there shouldn't be an inspection.
Yeah. There's no worry about, putting in these very sealed units, that somehow the building itself isn't really geared up to having a sort of sealed atmosphere.
No, because you can tell, you look at that and you can tell it's a historic building.
Yeah.
With those.
Yeah, no, I was thinking about the air quality inside, when would it dry it out, or would it get too, I don't know.
No, because you can vent that, but these haven't got trickle vents, but you could probably put them on the rear.
Sounds going their way. Martin.
I support this. It looks as though they've gone through, this company, which looks as though they're putting it in right. Yes, they may be putting double glazed units, but I think that was already done by a previous occupant or person.
Yeah.
And I really don't have a problem with the application.
Right. Shall we try a vote on this? So the proposal I propose, very bravely here, that we say no objection. And will somebody second that? Roger. All in favour? Yeah, noting Robin's abstention. Thank you very much indeed. Yeah. Thank you. Right, and then we come to 16 Lenborough Road, a 2-storey rear extension, which is pretty, to me, looks quite sort of a standard extension. What would you say, Roger?
I would say that exactly the same extension has been erected next door. With the addition.
Yes.
Basis.
Yeah.
I would suggest that we don't get to it.
Yeah, okay, so we don't discuss one too much. Lisa.
I'm happy to second that. It looks like a very sensible alterations inside. Everybody seems to have them now anyway, so I don't have a problem with this.
Okay, thank you, Martin, and then we'll probably go to a vote on this one.
Well, again, I support this. It's out the back. It's making an old building into a modern living area.
Yeah.
I don't have any objection to it at all.
Okay, can I suggest so Roger has proposed, Lisa has seconded it. Are we all in favour of no objections? Okay. Yes. Yep. Yeah, and Robin has abstained. We've got 110 Western Avenue. Certificate of lawfulness, proposed extension of shared dropped curb and turning the front garden into hard standing. Stalls a bit sad them, but I'm sure, I don't know what people thought about this, it does look rather odd in the photographs. So I'm going to give Caroline first, and then Martha speak.
Just to say, any hard standing should be permeable, and there should be a standard in all conversions of green landscaping to hard landscaping must be permeable. And there are such materials available to make it permeable, but still provide a gravel free, because it is, I think, gravel at the moment. I did have a look at it. And
Yes, it looks rather sort of
it's very odd sort of.
yes. I can imagine coming out at night time and falling over the edge.
Yeah. So, yeah, but yes, permeable hard standing, acceptable.
And I wasn't quite sure how long a drop they wanted. It says,
Well, I think it's a
Catherine,
shared drop curve next door.
right, yes.
It's a sort of slope.
Right, I'm leaving it back. Well, did Martin, were you going to talk? No.
Well, Caroline took my thunder, really.
That's what she's here.
It's exactly what I was going to do, but I'll carry on with the rainfall now then, and not just the thunder. Yes, because if it isn't, then that water's going to run off that drive down that severe slope, and then who knows where it's going to end up, in somebody else's front garden or property. So at this moment in time, because some of those documents couldn't be opened, I'm not convinced this is a good thing of doing it, although of course it looks as though it's already there.
Yeah.
So here we go again.
It's typical lawfulness, or proposed extension of shared drop curves. It's right. Let me have Catherine first, and then
Yes, I still haven't managed to get hold of the documents that I couldn't open. It took the officer 3 weeks to say, oh, I'll ask the applicant, because we haven't got any idea about how long this extension of drop curve is. Is it the whole frontage? Is it just to make sure that they've got their big car that can get on? You know, we've got no details. There's no details of materials, there's nothing. And I would have preferred if members deferred until we got the full set of documents.
Sensible.
Fran?
I was going to propose that we object to it.
Yeah.
On the grounds that have already been stated, about the runoff, etc. It's between Adams Close and Grenville Road, where I know that on that side of the road, there are issues with people having their houses flooded through runoff coming down there. It's
So what being on grounds of it's unviable, flooding,
Lack of information.
information.
Water runoff.
Okay, that's enough.
drainage, sustainability.
Yes. Okay, so Fran has proposed. I'll second them, I'll write it. So we're going to object this on the ground that it's there's lack of information, there's a worry about water runoff, and perhaps leading to a flooding risk. Okay, all in favour of us opposing this? Okay, yep, thank you very much indeed, and no big problem with this search. And number 4 is 9 Hare Close. Neat little setup here. 9 Hare Close, garage conversion, porch extension, and change to rear fenestration. I think that means rear windows. Not key fenestrations. Seems. Would members think this seems fairly straightforward, or are there any particular issues with it? Carolyn?
We just wondered whether there was a party wall agreement with the neighbour, whose garage seems to share the wall.
Yes.
And as they're making it into a residential extension, I mean, really, a neighbour issue in our view.
Yes.
So that we hope it's an amicable one.
Yeah.
But we have no objections to the conversion.
Martin?
Yes, well, if they are making that into an extension, then the party wall will have to be double skinned, but I'm assuming at the moment, just being
I think.
a linked garage is just a single skin, so
One would assume.
it will get smaller at that point.
Yeah.
But I would like some agreement be put in place, because if then the other neighbour wants to do the same,
Yeah.
they need a reciprocal arrangement that there doesn't have to be a space between them, just because they got in first.
It's complicated, isn't it? Because the neighbour doesn't actually adjoin the garage. They're over there somewhere.
The house is
Yeah.
round the corner.
Yeah, that's right. It's a different street.
Has lots of potential for me.
Oh, right, yes, of course, sorry, yes,
Yeah.
yes. It's not a link, yeah, it's,
Yeah.
Thank you, Martin.
anyway, that's, yes,
John,
that's building regs.
Parking implications in terms of number of bedrooms and the requirement for parking. I know nobody uses, hardly uses their garage for parking, but they are notionally a parking.
Yes.
Is there any, perhaps?
I don't think they follow that these days, do they?
Well, I did measure the frontage, scaling it off from the drawings, and you can't park 3 on the front. Not and open the doors.
That makes the parking a bit tight or unfeasibly tight.
Well, it's not according to the guidelines.
Okay. Oh dear.
I mean, if VALP is still an operative scheme, and if VALP says that it's got to be 2.8 wide by 5 long, and you can't fit those 3 on the front garden, it's not according to that, is it?
I suppose that they could pave over their
But they already have.
grass.
They already have, yeah.
That's grass, isn't it, there? Or is that somebody else's grass?
No.
If you look at the-
That's an old picture.
Ah, 2009.
Yeah,
So they haven't got.
I'm sorry, I do not get about like I'm used to. So I have to steal Google pictures and things like that.
Yes, yeah.
But it does say,
Or gravel does say it.
it does say on the drawings.
So are we saying there isn't enough parking space here, even though they've got gravel?
There's always, there is a garage and it is not a playroom or a study or anything else. It is accepted that you can use it as a parking space,
Yeah,
whether or not you can get your car in it.
yes.
But if you're going to actually convert the garage into something other than a garage, then you are going to need 3 parking spaces for a site.
And their garden and that bit outside isn't enough? No, okay, right. Thank you, John.
Not without taking the gentleman around the corner's driveway to his garage.
Yes.
And you can't do
So
that,
like
because it's not
the-
yours.
You might get the porch extension, which obviously is a good idea, but not the garage. I don't know which one. Roger first, come on.
Is it a 3-bedroom dwelling, do we know?
Is it a 3-bedroom dwelling?
I suppose I'll not put that in the report.
It's a 3-bed, but the little bathroom is tiny.
If it's 3 beds, they just need 2 off-street parking spaces.
Yeah, which they've got, haven't they?
So Roger, have they not got enough parking space or have they got enough?
If it's just 3 bedrooms, they just need 2.
Oh, right,
And
so
they've
they,
They've got,
It was built as a 3-bedroom,
Yeah,
but now they're extending it, aren't they?
Just making one bigger, aren't they?
they're just converting.
Still 3
it.
beds,
Yeah.
but one.
It's not becoming a 4-bedroom necessarily.
No,
I sort of get the feeling this is borderline acceptable.
Yeah.
I'm really not, you know,
but if it's not shown as a bedroom, then you can't assume it's a bedroom.
no, exactly.
So if it's,
Parking wise, they're
if it's a
okay.
3-bedroom house, then
Yeah.
he's got enough parking there.
Okay. Martin, did you want to run? Over this?
No, because my head's swiveled now.
I know. I think I listened to what Roger's saying, and that sounds that the parking question is just about livable with. The porch extension just makes a lot of sense. Are we happy to go with this, or is there any particular? I would tend to think, no, but at least it's it's not too bad. So I'm going to propose that we don't object to this.
second.
Tony will second it. Can I try for a vote? All in favour of not objecting to it? Okay, this could be a split. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of us. And anyone against? People against? Any abstentions? Yeah, 1, 2 abstentions plus Robin. Yeah. Thank you very much indeed, Robert. Yeah. Thank you very much indeed. It's interesting for that. All right, but okay, that's right.
Sorry, Chair.
Yes, sorry.
Just a point, Captain, if you need assistance photographing anywhere, then I know I can help, and probably others around the table will help what's happening too. You want us to say, go and photograph this place, let us know, and one of us will probably be able to do it.
Absolutely.
Offer of photographers.
Yes.
Yes.
Very idea.
It gives me a purpose to go for a walk and get steps,
Yes,
so.
yeah, well done.
I'm happy.
That's a lovely idea.
Yeah, I'm happy to do the village.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you very much indeed, that's very kind.
Something that I can do, as you can see from the next applications, I fortunately did go around there because the place is covered in scaffolding.
It is indeed.
Right, so now we're moving on then to 14 Wells Street. Which is looking a little bit like the Depot Lounge when you allowed to see it now. It's all wrapped up in scaffolding. And they have, I think in essence, am I right, Catherine? It's sort of this was a house that had been changed to accommodate somebody who had needed a lot of disabled access, and now it's sort of being turned back into a home that doesn't need all that access. That's roughly speaking.
Yeah. And what they have done so far is strip the roof back to the timbers, stack the tiles up nicely, and are obviously intending to reuse them. But it did not rain on the day after I took the photograph.
Yeah. So this is what do you call it when they preempted the approval? Yes. They've gone ahead without getting.
I mean, the roof barely gets a mention in the description, and now they've gone ahead with it without waiting for us to even consider it.
Yes, it's that risk, all right. Carolyn, the sensible.
Yes, I mean, the history of this house is that the extensions that were constructed, as you say, to accommodate someone with disability issues, it's been very messily done. I mean, real 1970s, 80s stuff.
Yes.
And I think this application actually makes sense of the house.
Yes.
And reconverts it back into a much more livable space. As for the roof, I take the point that there is no application to put up scaffolding and take the roof off. But we did wonder that with all the heavy rain, perhaps it started leaking and they had to do something immediately. And there was another example quoted by someone who lives in Church Street of exactly that problem, that they couldn't wait for the planning applications before the water started pouring in.
Yes, yeah. Okay, so are we minded to support this? I don't think we need to slap their wrists. It sounds like it's all done.
Propose no objections.
Yeah. Propose and seconded, or Martin, you're going to make a comment?
No, I was going to make a comment.
You're allowed.
So this is a listed building area. And here we are changing from grey UPVC to black UPVC, which, you know, we've just debated a little while ago about building windows, and we're just changing from plastic to plastic anyway. So, you know, which is quite acceptable. I don't have an issue with it, but, you know.
Heritage officer.
Yeah, exactly. You know, there's.
Let's move on.
So I will be seconding it then.
Okay, so Fran has proposed, Martin has seconded it. I'm all in favour of supporting this.
Just check.
No objection.
Yes, I think we're putting both together.
Same time.
Yes, same property. Okay, all in
No objections, not supported, not,
no objection. No objection, thank you. All in favour of no objection. Thank you, actually. Thank you. Essentially, my way. Thank you, sorry. Must admit, Catherine, you do a heck of a lot of work on these things.
Well, otherwise we'd have to have a link to the Buckinghamshire Council website on the screen so that you could look at them, and we would be timed out regularly. Times me out after about 5 minutes and I can't re-enter the selected thing.
It's terrible. Right, okay, so as I say, we've done 5 and 6 together, thank you. Item 7, 5 Holton Road, replacement of existing conservatory, a wonderfully polygonal shape, with a single story a brick extension, with a monopitch roof and roof light. It sounds like middle class bliss. Roger,
I would propose no objection.
okay, John,
Seconded.
okay, all in favour of no objection? Yay. It's unanimous, apart from what it will say.
But I are put legal.
It means that
It's a polygon.
if it was like an hexagon, really top.
It's like a parrot.
What?
The parrot polygon.
No. I know what it meant.
Regular mob.
Like that.
Oh, okay, right, now I.
Sorry, I've been borrowing Steve's joke book.
No, I just thought that.
I didn't know.
I didn't know what it meant. I just, if you asked them,
So Catherine said, oh, it's now going to be rectangular, I thought, I now know what it means.
but I didn't know what it meant.
No. But it's wrong.
Every day's a learning day.
Chopped off, it would be the same size as the extension.
Right, so item 8, 1A and 1B, Cornwall Place. Gosh, now this one is a bit more an interesting one. Flats to go above, where the dental practice has been, I think. The gallery dental practice been, and there's a lot of space running along the top, which somebody told me it was some sort of form. It was a pub in the old days. Everywhere was a pub in Buckingham in the old days. I forgot what it was called. It had a lovely name.
Awesome Groom,
Yes. And
Don't recall.
there are some, you can see the drawings of the flats themselves, which I thought out. And then you can see the entrance proposals, which you might wish to comment on.
I banged my head on the air conditioning unit when I went to look.
Having some, yeah, as well.
I mean, you really can't walk in a straight line between the precinct and the entrance door. I mean, it's absurd. We wonder why they aren't using this doorway.
Yeah.
And could anyone explain that? But the other feature that we certainly object to is the potential bike storage or refuse storage outside. That's really inflicting itself in the public realm and is not acceptable. And I know from the new design code guides that storage, communal, secure and convenient, and not to detract from the character and appearance of the public area.
Yes.
Which this would need to space.
Yeah.
So that was the two main areas of objection.
Yeah, the entrance is unfeasible, I think. It's apparently, yeah, it seems unrational. Yeah. What do you think of the flats themselves up there? It seems
Tiny, just fit the space limits as decreed by government, but they're worse.
Thank you, Gary. Martin and then Brad.
Yeah. So with the conversion and the access issues, do you think that we ought to call it in rather than just opposed to it, because it's quite dangerous then if it becomes a public set of flats?
Yes. What do you think?
It needs more looking at than just saying we don't like it, because if they go ahead with it, then we could be in a right pickle.
This doesn't make sense. Why? I think the upstairs sounded quite good the way it was thought out. It may be small, but it's well thought out. It's just the downstairs, the entrance doesn't make any sense at all. To me.
What's the process of calling it in?
I'm not sure with PAPCR. Roger might know better, but this is one of the late government squeezes to get people living back in town. The upstairs of commercial premises be fast tracked into residential.
Yes, but it's not working because we got a bad access and we got
Yes.
bin store and bike store. It's all
Yes,
wrong.
But it is a pre. It's asking the LPA to take a view on it. And I don't know whether you can call that in, to be honest.
Well, let's hear it from
It's not a planning application, so you can't call it in. It's like Catherine was saying, you're asking the question, is this permitted development? If the council say it's not permitted development, then they need to make a planning application.
Yeah.
If they say it is permitted development, then that goes through.
what can we do about it?
Yeah.
Because it just looks, yes,
Not
it's, not a lot. I love being chairman of the committee, yeah.
Just basically, they're asking the question,
Yes.
does this require planning permission?
Yeah.
And if the council say, no, it doesn't,
Do we have an opportunity in that space to comment?
no,
No.
because it's legally, if they take the legal point of view that it's not, doesn't require planning permission, then that's it.
Yeah.
On what basis, sorry,
Yeah.
on what
please.
basis will they say it doesn't require planning permission when they're conveying something to two flats that if black pepper opens could cause an issue? You've got this ventilation unit causing an issue. So are they likely to say no to it, or?
I don't know, if they consider that it complies with the use class order that they're discussing.
Right.
Then they would, I mean, you'd have to read the whole use class order basically to see what it is, but if the council consider that the change of use under this order is acceptable, then that's it.
Right.
They don't have to go for planning.
Okay. Couple of things. Firstly, presumably that aircon unit will be surplus requirements and therefore removed. In any case.
No, it can be.
It was to do with the dental practice. Okay, so no, then in that case, that's ridiculous. I eat my words. But there is a precedent in the conversion of the upstairs where email used to be, etc.
Yes,
Had to go through planning.
Yes.
Yes, and also it was delayed because they hadn't advertised it for commercial use for 2 years.
Yeah.
Which is what's in bulk.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised that economic development haven't said anything.
Yeah. Well, the dentist only moved out of there
Last month or 2
a
months ago.
couple of months
yeah.
ago.
And is it classed as commercial?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure, that's it, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, it's all the.
Say it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'd hope that with that in mind, then it wouldn't be allowed under permitted development. However, that's do we get to comment on it at this stage anyway? Right, okay. So we in that case, we object to it on the grounds that have already been cited. Access is
Access via
access and egress.
commercial
Not advertised correctly.
availability.
The similar development of above other shops in that same precinct had to go to full planning, and the outside space, bin storage, etc. Hasn't been properly
Can't send it all through.
Yeah,
Okay, Roger.
Environmental health.
yeah.
All of that, yeah.
If you're sending comments back, then ask them to ask the question, have they consulted the environmental health officer?
Yeah.
Because of noise.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
I will point out
And
that air conditioning unit is not done in the noise assessment. It's only talking about the fans from Prego and the
Probably knows that.
fab shop.
okay, so it is above food premises as well, isn't it? So
Black Pepper,
yeah,
Free
so-
as a restaurant, they will have venting as well.
yeah, but it's not actually above black pepper, is it?
No, it isn't,
No,
but
so it's above the
one of the rooms that actually has a window
yeah,
overlooks it.
yeah.
And of course, there are bathrooms and kitchens in the flats that do not have an exterior window, so they will have their own vents.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Okay.
So there are some good points
Yeah,
and
that's what I
last things,
mentioned.
but we are allowed under the rules to comment. We are being consulted and we will comment to the point, fulsomely and to the point, along the lines that Fran outlined so beautifully. Environmental health, noise, accident, fire, not being openly marketed commercially, and the similar case of, I think it was email, where they had to go show they had marketed it commercially
And planning permission.
and had to go to.
Let's go for planning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. So do we vote on that? Okay,
Yeah.
we do.
Yeah.
I'll propose that, shall I? And
I think I
you
propose
propose
it.
it? Can I say? Go on. Let me say it. Right, Paul is still keeping a straight face for that. All in favour?
Of opposing.
Proposing it.
Opposing, I know. Okay. Yes, yeah. Pardon, I'll be those abstaining. I won't any abstaining.
Could I ask the chair that I'd see a copy of the reasons that committee
Yes, yes. You can help try and go through that would be even better.
No, suggesting that's possible, I'm just.
Yeah, it'll be in the minutes, I'll put it in there. But it's not. Does that bring us through then? To final decision. Right. Yes, okay. So item 5, planning decisions. To receive for information, planning decisions made by Buckinghamshire Council. So fairly straightforward, and then just towards the end of fairness, we oppose ground lift L up to 4 metres, and they approved it.
Yeah,
Sorry, please.
yeah. Really disappointed at that.
Yeah, why? It seems
Because
such a
there's
big
an enormous amount to take off the tree.
Yeah.
And we also asked, I think, saying that a TPO be put on that tree, which is a very special tree in the centre of town, and it's been refused.
Yeah.
I mean, can we appeal that?
Can we appeal?
Is it owned by the council? Is the tree owned by the council?
Nobody knows
Adjacent
where
to 11 Council Street.
it was given to the town by the Buckingham side.
Ah.
They have anything, it was by the Buckingham side.
Yeah.
Which I'm fairly certain is in highway land.
If it's on highway land, they can't serve an order on themselves.
Oh, okay.
So
And they can't put a tree preservation order on themselves, okay?
No, they can't.
Robert, we got any
Yeah,
problems?
the history of it is certainly, as Karen says, that I remember the Buckingham Society applying to get the tree there, which was quite difficult.
Yeah.
And because it's Elm Street, it was an elm, and then they did a lot of work on getting a particular elm that might not die, and it seems like Buckinghamshire's definitely trying to kill it.
Yeah.
By giving it a great big crown reduction, which, you know,
Suppose people can stand around it and hug it.
well, it just seems so inappropriate. It's not actually doing any harm as it is. It looks really nice.
Where did this come from? Does anyone know?
I should imagine somebody wants to park there, doesn't they?
They do all part of
Yeah, no, and that one bell prevents people parking, so I bet somebody's asked for it to be crown reduced because they think that they can't get the car out. It's true. Yeah. And I, you know, you sit around it, it's got that nice bench around it. You go up that way, you can sit there and wait. It's a nice place to sit, and it's in the shade. So it's a social point, and it's a public amenity. I think that if there's anything, I would think it's worthy of press release about our disappointment in the decision taking the tree, because it is a feature in our landscape. We look at it, it's taken long enough to establish itself, and now it's established. It's quite not a substantial tree, it's quite a tree. I think it's well worth a press release. Our disappointment and disrespect for the historic tree.
I'll second that.
1574, there was a mention of an elm tree on that spot.
Yeah.
Wow.
In our records.
So there is a proposal by Robin and seconded by Lisa that we'd like to express our disappointment, sincere, great disappointment.
Press release.
And a press release.
Yeah, press release.
Press release. I think a few of you just find a tree there suggesting that it needs to be left alone to good
Can
future.
I just check?
Could I also suggest that we ask the Buckinghamshire Council to stop cars parking on that's pavement all around that tree,
Should be parking there.
and they shouldn't, it's illegal to park on the pavement. They shouldn't be parking around the tree.
Because there are double yellow lines all the way around that corner, right?
There are different.
There is a car that's been there for at least, well, getting on for 12 months to my knowledge, not moved. I've reported it to Fix My Streets. I've reported it to DVLA and it's still there. No MOT, no tax.
Well, yeah.
Still there. You'll spot which one it is if you go and have a look.
Yeah. It's the one that's not identity.
Oh. Can't be right at the note.
I know what we can do, but it has to be relevant to this and not the parking and. I'm not sure that we can do a press release on that because it's receiving information. It's not for evaluation.
But we receive these for information because they are, you know, they're a reflection of work we have done and we have discussed them in the past. And I think members democratically ought to be allowed to express their concern.
I think that
I agree with you, maybe can't go out on a complete, protest march over the whole.
well, I don't know why not.
The Buckingham Society can go out and protest.
No, I think
we should. I think we should.
there's an important question here through chair. It's democratically been asked to do a press release. It's been proposed and seconded, and we are elected to make our views known to the public. Now, if that's full, it hasn't been voted on, that falls. But if we're not here to make our views known to the public, well, what are we here for?
Yeah. Okay, so we have a proposal, proposed by Robin and seconded by Lisa. And that so it's almost in two parts, isn't it? One, that we would write and express our serious concern to the Buckinghamshire Council. And two, that we would issue a press release. Now, I think I'm getting the impression from that writing and expressing our sadness to the council is probably okay. And we can vote on that, and we'll vote on the press release as well. But you may or may not wish to express. You may not. The advice from Steve is that we shouldn't be under this item going as far as a press release. I've got Fran and I've got Robin.
I think as Robin says, Steve can advise us, but we make the decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, right. In that case, shall we go straight forward then to a vote on the motion proposed by Robin and seconded by Lisa, which is that we write to express our concern to Buckinghamshire Council, and that we also issue a press release to reflect those concerns.
Yep.
All in favour? Yes. Anyone against? Anyone abstaining? So that's John and John. Martin.
Martin.
They're not twins, are you? This is something you want to let us know. I didn't.
You've got your name just like
Get to that stage of
Twilly D and Twilly Dum.
They're with you. I've got a bit of. So that was more exciting than we expected. But that is really sad because it is part of Buckingham.
Yeah, it is.
Right, part approved, part refused. No objections. Do you have any views on the Bostock Port? Yes, please, Carolyn.
We
What a mishmash this is,
simply
eh?
can't believe that they refused to fell 3 Cypress Street,
Yeah.
which are really in the way. I mean, it is a nonsense, actually, a real nonsense.
Yeah.
I mean, given that they might not be felled till after the nesting season and all that, we shouldn't be protecting these trees.
No.
They're taking up too much space and ruining the garden for anything else.
Yeah.
Remind me where Bostock Court is again?
Out on West Street. It's more or less opposite Castle House.
Yeah.
It was the garden.
Next to where the old surgery was in that street.
We got, was on the.
Oh, I know, yes.
You know,
Yeah.
Western Avenue, and then at the
And
bottom of Western Avenue, you've got those new houses there. Bit nearer town, there's a little close that goes in the back of there.
yeah.
About 30 years old, isn't it?
But it's, I mean, because the doctor's garden had a number
Yeah.
of rather nice trees in it, it's got a TPL on the whole
Yeah,
garden,
yeah.
which means that all the Bostock Court houses have got 1 or 2 nice protected trees in them.
Okay. So
I'm just surprised.
you're surprised, yeah, that's surprised and saddened. At least something got dealt with. But we're not quite sure about the knowledge of trees. Okay, withdrawn application for form ends in close.
Again.
Yes. Oh dear. And 6, regular actions update. So I'm not going to read those out, but we can note those. 5, 3, 2, 3 applications. And then here we go. Buckinghamshire Council consultations. And the closing dates for responses to each of these is the 12th of May. And that's
Last Tuesday we were told.
yeah. So where I put my papers, so
These through.
So we've got 2 here, and you may feel by this stage of the evening, we don't necessarily want to plough through and do the homework, but we do need to do some homework. We can't just leave it. We're very lucky with people like Sheena and Catherine, but we do need to do our homework on this. So the first one is the Buckinghamshire Council parking standards consultation. Yes, please, yeah.
Members might be reminded for both of these to, has been a very successful one. I've done this sort of thing for the neighbourhood plan to, perhaps they needed, everyone have a group discussion now, an overview. But previously we've, members have decided to have a full week to go through the papers, let Catherine collate some responses, and then in consultation with one of the members that's you wish to nominate to then provide the report to them. If members would want to do that, might be a good way forward. It has worked well in the past.
Yeah.
Good idea. Rather than
Yeah.
only bang point.
Okay, Robin, you've been waiting.
Yeah, I mean, no problem. Clark said, there's some real changes and dumb and change within this. One is that there's no real recognition of HMOs. They are mentioned, but they're not mentioned. I had a briefing on it the other day and listened to questions on HMOs. It appears that they're not treated in the seriousness that you would want to. And the other thing was how they're loosening the restrictions on the parking adjacent to properties.
Yeah.
Like where you had this, which Roger referred to, for the veiled allowed to be planned parking restrictions, it appears that they're weakening those because of the because it's mirroring the need to develop. Now, I may have read it or listened to it completely wrong, so I do think there are some interesting points in there. And the parking restrictions, if you look at their map, they're bringing in parking zone restrictions in an area, which they'll then have to bring in another one because it doesn't match the Buckinghamshire aspirations for the growth. And I didn't know Buckingham was round. I didn't know it was round. Does anybody know it was round? You know, I think that it doesn't show where we are. So I'm quite concerned about it because we do get individually lots of concerns about the parking HMOs. But the HMOs are going to come forward and they're weakening the parking restrictions and on bigger houses. So I do think there's some stuff in there from what I picked up from the consultation or the meeting I had.
Yeah, thank you, Robin, for bringing that to the table. Martin?
Yes.
Or John?
May I say thank you once again to Catherine for her synopsis of what's going on here. I can't believe that they've put this round zone for our inadequate town centre on it and bring it all under town centre, because that means a whole load of things are going to come into this, which means further development and alterations to housing stock will take place with smaller number of car parking spaces required. But one of their premises, or the premise that they want to work on, is that they say the town centres are well supplied with public transport. Well, there we go. I mean, define
Stagecoach.
define well supplied, you know, because I don't believe we are well supplied. So I think it falls, therefore we don't come into it, but they will obviously argue against that. And then they give us some figures of 1.5 for 3 and 4 bedroom houses, and they say, don't round up. So why don't they just put 1 in there? Because that's all you're going to need. So, no, I don't agree with this, and I will find I will sort of object to the various points.
Yeah.
There are some, you know, reasonable points that they've gone forward with, but I know it's a consultation, and I don't really believe in those. So they'll just do what they want at the end of it, maybe. But there we go. Car clubs, you know, centralised location for mobility and everything coming together. Well, we don't have that. We don't have a big bus station with car clubs coming in and e-scooters.
What are they?
Well, they're still illegal unless they're provided by the local council, and we don't have anything like that.
It's like when they changed our parking scheme to be the same as it is in the south of the county.
So
when people, you know, come off
the one shoe fits all approach is just not the case here.
Martin, I know Catherine would appreciate it because we were talking about it earlier, but do you think if all of us hand in our comments, if you want to, send them direct, of course, Martin, do you think you could sort of have a look over it all and really put some punch into it?
Put some punch, certainly.
Yes. Thank you very much indeed. A bit of passion up with it.
Well, I don't want to up anybody else's thing, you know, glorify it, and we will just use people's comments. I'm not going to, you know, punch it up.
But sort of sharp, make it sharp and in focus. Because with these sort of things, you probably score 1 point or another point.
Agree.
Everything else, they go, oh, look at these people in the north, all boring about things. But if there's something,
We need somebody to start at the front and somebody to start at the back, because by the time you get halfway through, you're bored with it. But if you start at the back and work forward, then, you know, you're me in the middle.
I'm 2 things. One might be worth going through the exercise of filling it in negatively, to see whether it scores any different in the consultation. And secondly, I'm unsure that's a question we should ask them. What is this going to go into document, or what is the democratic route through the council? Because if this is going to go through and be made into something to do with the planning, whether it's going to have to be taken to Buckinghamshire Council to be voted on, because if they're going to make such policy as this on the hoof without it going through a democratic process, that's quite a way, because it means it'll have to go to cabinet, they'll have to vote on it, and then it'll have to go to council. So if it's just going to go from the consultation straight into policy, there's a whole democratic gap there. So I think it might be worth just asking what the democratic process is to go to. It's worth asking. If they come back and say it isn't, but there's nothing in this that says they're going to.
No.
And it could quite radically just be done by a leader's decision or cabinet member decision.
I rather like the fact that we sent them there ourselves for the documents via Your Voice Bucks, citizenspace.com, planning. I thought
sounds good.
So good. Citizen Space, yeah. I feel better for that. Are there any other?
If I may, there is an opportunity to put any general comments at the end, so that could be an opportunity to put.
Make sure it's a democratic input to this one.
If members do decide that put for Martin to work with Catherine on that, we'll need a vote to delegate that. And
okay,
I think would appreciate if they were in for Monday morning, if members feel that's sufficient time, that would give her time then to write it up for the submission date.
Okay, Roger, do you have a point? Then I'll try.
Just just a quickie. In when you deal with planning applications, they always say golden rule is you treat each individual site as own merits. And I've always thought that when looking at this, Buckingham Town Centre, for example, is where we are, is made up of loads of different sites, which all differ. So to have a blanket half a space for 1 bedroom, I think is is missing the point. I just think
You put
that,
that on your response at the end.
yeah, I just think, well, if everybody wants to make a planning point,
Yeah,
treat
Yeah.
it on its own merits, and you
Yeah.
can't.
it's too broad brush.
Yeah, and if you just allow everything in the town centre to become a residential, then where do people park?
Yeah. So can I, good point. Can I propose that we ask, this is your approval, ask Martin to help Catherine to collate these flies. Are you seconding?
I'm seconding that.
Fran is seconding it. All in favour or? Yay.
No, we haven't.
And to do it, and to let Catherine have your comments by Monday morning. Monday now, so it's next Monday morning. Half much time.
You've got a weekend to do it.
Right. Page 30, goodness, it's so long.
It's not nice to just something similar. For
Yeah.
This other
You
one.
can indeed, yeah.
Again, so whether.
I know.
I suspect somebody
I
might.
do, I do. Good preemptive.
I don't know, I do apologise.
So now here we are on the last bit, the design code, which sounds really interesting. And I'm going to.
I was going to propose Roger.
You're forty tonight, aren't you?
Yeah. So I will be, Tony, you're going to propose Roger and I will be seconding it, but let's hear from Robin first of all, please.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I don't want to doing it because the very reason I think, I mentioned the design code on last week, because it originally's got a long history. I remember when Caroline and Robert Lehman brought it through to council, the first design code, and it served us very, very well. Didn't give me any faith in this, that even though they've accepted it in the Vale of Aylesbury plan, that all this means that it keeps getting accepted in the Buckinghamshire plan, because not everywhere has got a design code, and some of these places haven't. They've never done one. I think there's an important see to this outside this question, see the clarity.
Yeah. Okay.
On there separately, separate to fill in this consultation. I think we need to write them, see clarity of their intentions in honouring the design code, which has recently been affirmed in their adoption of the Vale of Aylesbury plan. And in the Buckinghamshire plan, because if they're going to do one all over design code over Buckinghamshire, well, we may find that we get told, well, in Cheshire or Amersham or they don't have any problem with flooding in Marlow, as you know, not compared to us.
Well, but just because we're getting a bit past time. Buckinghamshire Council design code, they are allowed to have their own design code, aren't they? Yeah. But we'd rather like to listen to what we've done.
They are quite entitled to have their own design code.
Yeah.
What they're not entitled to do is ignore one that they've already ratified.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Roger, and then Martin.
Just a quick point, the chap who's doing this at Buckinghamshire Council is an ex-colleague and he's quite a good friend of mine.
Oh.
And he was saying how good ours were.
Oh.
So
Well, that's a start, isn't it?
What they're trying to do is a similar thing to what we've done, but not site specific.
Yeah.
So that because their draft design guide was pretty useless, really. And so what they're trying to achieve is a similar thing to us, but they can't obviously do specific codes. It's very difficult to do it county-wide. So they're doing it as
best they can.
They're basically taking all the points that we made.
Good.
And saying, like this roof example.
Yeah.
Exactly the same as what we've been saying.
Yeah.
So it won't, and when it comes to determining planning application in Buckingham, that is the main policy document.
Yeah.
So therefore they would, anything that has to design on our code.
Well, Roger, you are the man for the job. That's good. Martin and then Carolyn, I wasn't quite sure which one came first.
I couldn't work out if they were trying to get around big developments where the design code would be sort of watered down or not. And I couldn't see it in the survey either. Or, you know, because
You say get round, so just trying to.
well, just not get round, but watered down, so it's not such a specific design code. As opposed to, you know, we have developments, we've got 800 here, you know, we may have 100. Well, that's not that big in some scheme of things, but, you know, so that was just a point that I want to try and understand.
I think, yeah, because if you ask a developer to do a set of design codes, they'll do them how they want.
Yeah.
Whereas having a document like this gives you more control. So if you're determined that you can say, well, if you're going to produce your own codes, don't need to accord with this. Similarly to Buckingham, they need to accord with ours.
Right,
Right,
okay. I was just going to say, I'd like to see specific mention of neighbourhood plan design codes. There is not one mention of neighbourhood plan. There's bits about local bits, but nothing really specific. And of course, there will be many areas where Buckingham will differ from Winslow, let alone Cheshire. And for example, chimneys.
Yes.
Well, I won't go into the details now, but we will be responding to this. But it did strike me, the lack of neighbourhood plan mentioned, but also it's very long and detailed. It's almost loses clarity through in
most of their things too.
Exceptional detail.
Yes.
But I wondered if it couldn't be more briefly.
It was that thing about, I'm sorry this letter is so long, I didn't have time to make it short.
It's like that.
It's so important and they're obviously not that level.
I'll say how to have it, yes.
Right, anyway, you'll be very, very kind and generous with your time. There is a recommendation at the end of this that says that the planning clerk and a councillor, in our case, Councillor Roger Newell, Rosalie's, work through the survey questions with an emphasis on abiding by our neighbourhood plan design code to preserve the local nature of its terms. And but in the meantime, people can be putting in their own comments via Catherine. Does that work?
Oh, yeah.
We encourage it, yeah, okay, so that is the proposal. Proposed it.
I think Roger proposed himself. And I'll second him.
Well, I'm not quite sure Roger proposed.
Unlike me.
I've had Roger and Jane propose.
Okay, Roger and Jane, okay. Miss Fran wants to do that. You will get proposed. Okay, Roger and Jane apparently. Can I ask then that you vote on this motion that we to Roger and Catherine work through the survey questions on the design code, with the emphasis on abiding by our neighbourhood plan design code to preserve the local nature. All in favour? Anyone against? Essentially Robin. Okay, I think that's, oh my goodness, that was a
just to make
excellent
one, just to
meeting.
make one. I don't need to abstain.
Oh, right, can you vote?
No, I just make one point that the communities which are missed off here, like Winslow and Wickham, might wonder where they're included.
Yeah.
Because, you know, there's not a full list of places, is there? Gerald Cross is, where it's,
Poor old Gerald's cross.
Gerald's cross.
and
So,
Galvin and Jarvis.
No. Item 8, chair's announcements for information only. There are 9 dates of next